Hello, how's it going, everybody? I'm Ben from Universal Audio, and welcome to a very special office hours. Because today is Tuesday, and this Tuesday especially, marks the very first Tuesday in which you're going to be seeing the one, the only Fab Dupont. How's it going, Fab?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Well, as I was just teasing people, so we've put you on the hook. You're coming back every week for office hours. You enjoyed it so
Yes,
much, obviously, that you were like, how can I just have this happening every week?
I can barely contain myself with joy and glee. Uh, so yeah, I'm going to be here every week, and the idea I like to give silly names to shows
Hmm.
because this is not an office hour. This is not an office. Isn't well,
That
it
seems
kind
a
of
lot.
feels like an office now. um, I thought we'd do something called Tales from the Switch.
Mm.
And the idea behind it is very simple. Is I'm good friends with people at Universal Audio, and I was lucky enough to be one of the first to get Luna, and so I learned Luna. But there is no better way to learn anything, an instrument, a piece of software, other things,
Hmm.
cooking, than by doing it under pressure.
Yeah.
And because otherwise you're just dabbling, right? Like you
Hmm.
learn it and you learn the key commands and you play with it and you go boom boom chak chak. Oh, it's great. Maybe you do a quick mix.
Hmm.
We did NAM, that was not low pressure. That was pretty crazy high pressure.
Yep.
But it's not the same because you could say, it's a live show and everything. So I thought that to force myself to really really know Luna and to really learn it and to be useful both to my friends around me and you guys, give you feedback and everything,
Hmm.
then I would take on an actual mix, like a, a job,
Yeah.
mixing Luna,
Hmm.
mixing the songs in Luna. Not
Yeah.
just one song, a whole album,
Yeah.
just, for good measure.
Uh-huh. And not just for
Um,
demonstration, like for real. Like this is the record that they're gonna
yes,
publish in mass. Like that's,
that's the record.
mhm.
So because I am really completely stupid, I that's exactly what I did. So the
Yeah.
idea was, okay, the next record that comes in that I think has the right set of parameters, which I'll explain in a second, then instead of doing it in Pro Tools, like I've been doing it for the last 813 years,
Hmm.
I will do it all in Luna.
Nice.
Yes. And then to make things even more insane, I said,
Hmm.
why not do it on camera?
Why not? Just add,
Yes.
sprinkle a little
Um,
extra complexity on top of it. Yeah.
so the idea was that because my since the launch of Luna, my inbox, various many inboxes are literally exploding with questions from people all over the world, and so which is great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And So I thought that it might be interesting to people to have a more real life peek into how what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
Hmm.
And so a few weeks ago, my friend Magda from Benda Magda,
Hmm.
whom some of you may know, recommended me for a record, and this artist named Nesrin um, wrote me an email and said, "Hey, I'm a friend of Magda's, blah blah blah. I'd like you to mix my record."
Hmm.
And I said, "Shit, fine. Send me some music." And that's when it hit me. I heard the first track, uh, and I was like, "Oh, this is really good. This is
Hmm.
really good." And then the timeline was not too tight,
Hmm.
and then I felt that the music was really universal and everybody would enjoy listening to it.
Yeah.
And also, very important, both Nesrin, the artist, and the label were okay with me, basically going out in the street naked, you know,
Exactly.
and then naked too.
Yeah, it
Um,
takes a certain kind of artist to be comfortable with being having their tracks heard naked
yeah,
live
yes.
in
Well,
front
when
of an
you when you
audience.
hear when you hear her, you'll get it's very good. It's stellar.
Yeah.
So then we went back and forth a little bit, and then about 10 days ago,
Hmm.
I said, you know what? First, before we get into this madness, how about I mix a song for you and then send it to you?
Yeah.
And then first, are you going to like what I'm doing? Because if you don't like what I'm doing, considering the timeline, the constraints, and this added little layer of complication,
Yeah.
um, it's probably a bad idea. So we should do a preview kind of thing. So I mixed a song. It's called Elle. It's in French.
Mm-hmm.
The record is in French and English and Arabic. So there's three languages
Mm-hmm.
that I've heard so far. I don't know. I haven't heard everything. And so in my first exchange with Nesrine, whom I hope I'll be able to bring on camera maybe next week or something,
Mm-hmm.
I said, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to mix the record. And then once a week, I'd like to go on the show that I'm going to put together, Tales from the Switch, and just do a report of what happened.
Yeah.
And so it's open because this is it's real life and it's real time.
Mm-hmm.
So far I've only mixed one song called Elle, which you could translate to she. And so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit the process and how it came in, play you the demo.
Awesome.
And show you, it came in Pro Tools. So I'm going to open the Pro Tools session, show you how it came, and explain to you how I went from Pro Tools to Luna.
Perfect.
And then I'll open my current Luna mix. Maybe I'll show you different versions and show, play you different versions so I can also share with you the musical side of it, not just the geeky side of it.
Exactly. WAV files are fun, but music's better.
Yeah. So because actually my first mix was in the wrong direction. They didn't like it. So her and her producer Uma.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
And now where it seems we are in agreement. I got an email from Nesrine earlier today, and she said that she really digs it, and that there's a couple like weird noises here and there.
Mm-hmm.
There were some issues with some of the files, and this is what happens when you're remote, right?
Yeah.
I'm here in New York City, and she's in France or in Spain somewhere. I'll ask her. Sorry, I should have checked that. And or she told me, but I forgot. I think she's in Spain because she's near Magda. So she's in Spain. She's in Spain. I knew that. And then so I get an archive, and let me share my screen and show you a little bit.
Yeah.
Share
Read
screen.
my mind.
Proof. Share.
That's kind of one of the not fun parts about working remotely, right? Is the fact that there's always the question of like, did I get it? Did it come down correctly? Is there like a corrupt something? Like you never know.
And also, I'm used to it. I spend a lot of time getting sessions from people. So, and I also produce records. So I know how to prep my files for somebody else to mix them because I know what I like to get.
Yeah.
But not everybody is used to working with other people. A lot of people mix their own stuff, and then once a year or twice a year they send their stuff to be mixed by somebody else. And so it's an art form to prepare sessions, because if you work on a song for 6 months, your session is like could be like your bedroom when your mother is not about to visit. That kind of vibe. Your bedroom when your mother is not about to visit, and your bedroom when your mother is about to visit are two very different things.
Totally different. And I don't even recognize that other bedroom.
yes. And so, it's not an inborn skill. You're not born with that skill.
Yeah.
Me, I'm a little bit OCD, but it's a very healthy way. And also, I like to find my shit, so I don't like things to be messy.
Yeah.
So what I got from Uma and Nesrine is I got this session called Vis and Uma Copia. So I sent some Spanish here. The L6 to mix. I got this Pro Tools session.
Yeah. Seems like it's prepped.
Yes. And so the first thing I do, regardless of what software I'm going to work in it, is I save the session that I get. I save it as, and I put my name on it. Not for ego reasons, but for me to be able to go back to the original in case I do something stupid.
Yeah.
The stupid stuff usually happens on the sessions with my name on it. So what we're going to do on this Luna show is we're going to launch Pro Tools, and we're going to hope that everything works. So I'm launching Pro Tools right now, just to show you the shape and how the session came in, and to keep this as real life as possible.
Awesome. By the way, we've gotten lots of bananas in the chat.
Bananas are great. I love bananas. Bananas rock. So I haven't upgraded Pro Tools yet to the new version because I'm on a tear on a whole bunch of records. And so I'm doing 10 records in Luna, and I'm doing 18 records in Pro Tools at the same time. So that's good for my brain.
I was like, yeah, it's really, really. I'm sure you're not having any sort of like head turning, like, wait, oh shit, yeah, I'm on the wrong
No,
program.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, the key commands are very, very close cousins. So that's nice. I don't erase anything by mistake too often. All right, so this is the mix session. So this is the saved as session from UMA session. It's going to take a second to open, but I think it's worth it to look at it because there is a method to this madness.
Yeah. Well, and so far, looking ahead here, I see you've already got folders for AAF and bounces and Luna.
Yeah,
so
I'm going to explain that in a second. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is kind of your new organization structure. It looks like
this is what I came up with. So yeah, let's do before I press play here. So I got this session and it was not contained in a folder. I created a Pro Tools folder and I put all the Pro Tools files in the Pro Tools folder because I'm a genius that way. Yeah. Then I created a Luna folder. There's no stopping me now.
No.
You'll never guess what I'm going to put in the Luna folder.
I don't know. No clue.
Okay. And usually I have a bounces folder inside the Pro Tools folder. That's been my workflow for those last 812 years. Yeah. So I have upgraded that bounce folder to the upper level.
Ooh, I always promoted. Nice.
Promoted. So I have the name of the artist, Nesrine, and then I have the name of every song. And every song I have a Pro Tools folder, a Luna folder, a bounces folder, and I'll explain the AAF folder in a second.
Nice.
So this is the Pro Tools session. And for technical, we are on the internet reasons. I cannot play the sound of it right now, but I'll play you the rough mix in a second. Cool. So as you can see, it's a small session. And that's why this record was perfect for this exercise. It's because it's a lot of music with not a lot of tracks. There's a lot of intensity and a lot of emotion and a lot of great stuff and a lot of beautiful work to do, but not 800 tracks. So I can actually show you stuff and it can be relevant.
Yep.
So that's the way it came in. This is reorganized with my system for those of you who know me. So I have the drums on top. There's not a lot of tracks of drums, and all the tracks carried over, by the way. So you're not missing anything by not hearing it right now. Nice. A couple bass drums, a couple snare drums, a couple overheads, which came in muted. Okay. Important to note. Yep. There was a drum bus, some percussions, super crucial, the percussions, you'll check it out. They also went to a bus. And these are the plugins that they came up with. So these are the plugins from UMA, from the producer. Gotcha. And then one lead track, a duplicated lead track, a chorus lead track, and lead coro, so another lead track. Then the stereo background vocals, a super cool effect I'll play for in a moment. And then there was one reverb here, a cello, because Nesrine sings and plays cello, and she's a badass cello player. Yeah. And then a bunch of different electric guitars, and then some really cool effects. Like there's a looper, kind of like a pad thing, and then this crucial bass, which was, and I'm told, recorded with an EFDI. Is nice. Nice. And,
the cello that's on this track. Do you know, was that her acoustic cello? Was it an electric cello?
I don't know. It sounds acoustic to me. I will ask her this question and I will answer it next week. Awesome. In the next episode of Tales from the Switch. Cello, electric. Okay.
I was watching some of her videos. I've seen her play both. Some of the different videos. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know what they use for the records.
It's pretty wild. So that's the Pro Tools session I got. So as a workflow to switch to Luna from any DAW, or to switch out of Luna back into any DAW, what you guys have done is pretty smart. I really dig it. So they have this AAF format. And so what I did is I just selected everything that was an audio track. Yeah. And so I do it this way.
And these are all just
Like,
the visible ones as well. So you can kind of peek
yeah,
on the left side of your screen there. You can see
yeah,
there's some hidden tracks, but the cool thing is when you do
yeah,
it this way, you're
yeah,
only the ones that get selected are the ones that are, being thrown into
exactly.
the AAF.
And those came in hidden on Uma's session. So
Mm-hmm.
I said like, okay, he doesn't want this. He doesn't want me to have this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't partake. So I just selected all the audio tracks as such, and then I did export. I didn't finish. Let's just be real. Let's be real.
Be real, man.
And let's do export selected tracks as OMF, as AAF. Do not do OMF. OMF is not the devil. It's not bad enough to be the devil. It works for the devil.
Yeah, it's in the
It's
cahoots
one
with
level.
It's it in
Yeah.
IKEA. OMFs and IKEA are both their
IKEA,
cousins.
yeah, that's funny. Forgot about that one. So AAF, however, AAF is on the other side. It's on the bright side. It's with the good guys. AAF has been working. Something that's really important to know, and that I failed at the first time, and it's gonna be worth you suffering me for this whole time just for this. So as you can tell, the bass drum is a little bit edited.
They did a little bit of chopping on those.
So the way it came in, though, it was like this. It was as a group.
Okay. So it looked like one.
It looked like one, and I didn't notice the GRP here. AAF does not like Pro Tools groups.
Nope.
Doesn't. So what you have to do is select it, Option Command U, and make sure that you have no groups in your sessions. You have to make sure of that.
Yep.
So that's a very important thing that cost me a little bit of time.
Important little detail there. Well, I've found. I mean, this was. I haven't done a really complicated AF, and since we've launched Luna, we've been creating so much stuff from scratch. But also, if you guys are ever having trouble with a session not coming in correctly from an AF, I had a few sessions where it had multi-track drums that were all beat detected, so there was just thousands of edits and fades. The way an AAF file handles those is it creates a file for every one of those fades, and then when you have tens of thousands of them, it can sometimes overwhelm the file format and crash either Pro Tools or crash Luna on the way in. So occasionally you'll have to find that you may need to consolidate. Again, this is why it's helpful to just do a save copy of your session in Pro Tools, grab those, consolidate them, commit to those edits, and then do the AAF. But as you'll see, you can still keep a lot of these big edits. You can keep those intact.
Exactly. So I left everything. So first, because I just want to see if it works and how it works, so I can report to you guys and help you guys, work in this environment.
Exactly.
The thing that's good about AAF is it keeps the volumes. So that's awesome. However, it does not keep the plugins.
Nope.
So if there's an actual sound that you feel is really important in your Ableton or Pro Tools or Cubase, that the plugin is an integral part of the sound of that track. Don't freeze. Commit that track.
Yep.
Because freeze doesn't carry over. But commit that track and export that. But the thing is that then you'll be able to have, if you do that, you can stay fluid in your source DAW, and you can have the exact same mix, exact same balance come up in Luna. And that's it's pretty cool. So I did that. What I did is I ignored the plugins, because what I did is I just wanted to start fresh. I wanted to have a blank slate. And there was not that much stuff. And I paid attention to a few things like, the reverb that was on the cello, and there was some decapitator, and some of it I wasn't a big fan of. The only plugin, actually, no, I ignored everything.
Start totally from scratch.
I started from scratch. So I exported that. So I'm going to quit Pro Tools now. And Pro Tools is going to quit. Come on. Yeah, thank you.
There it goes.
And then, so just to show you, an AAF looks like this. It looks like a session file. And then there's all the audio files have these weird names that you can never know what it is. So you're not supposed to look in that folder.
Nope.
That folder is just there because the system is looking for it. And so now I'm going to launch Luna, and we're gonna then I'm going to open the session. But before, you know what would be cool? What Luna launches is I'm going to play you the rough mix.
So I did get a really good question. I think you're uniquely qualified to help answer.
Hit it.
Someone's looking for strong opinions on either Massenburg EQ or Cambridge.
Oh, well, that's really tough.
Exactly.
I helped design that Massenburg EQ. And I love it. It's the best sounding EQ. It's really fabulous. Actually, you're about to see it live in action. I love it. I love that EQ. And George invented parametric EQs. So, you know, get it from the source.
Yeah.
The Cambridge can do anything. George's EQ doesn't have like a Butterworth super steep high pass. Yeah. At least not the version that is in UA right now. So, so if you need to like break wall, like, you know, get rid of something that's really bothering you at the bottom of a signal, but you don't want to, you know, cut too much fat out of it, you can't do that with the GML EQ, because it only has, I think, if you go into the 5 band, you have 24 dBs per octave.
Yeah.
On the 3 band, you only have 12 dBs per octave. We did that on purpose. The Cambridge will do that, like, no problem.
It'll do 48. It's got
elliptical filters. Does it have elliptical? It has this crazy steep stuff, and it sounds really good. I think that and it's very clean. I really dig the sound of the MDW, of the Massenburg stuff, and also I'm really proud of my interface.
Yeah.
Although it's aged, it hasn't aged necessarily as well as it should, but it is.
That was what, early 2000s?
Yeah, it's like 15 years old, that interface. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
We did pretty well for a bunch of amateurs. All right, so this, and tell me, make sure that we can hear it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the in my first conversation with Nesrine, I said, you know, for me, so she sent me some demos, and I like the record, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be here. I really love the record, and I said, could you send me your worst possible session for me to know if I can do this, because I have so much work, and her deadline is pretty tight. And she's away, so we're not in the same room, so I can't have like really complicated conversations. We have to be on the same page, and I have to really get it, and the tracks have to be decently recorded, because I don't have time to do a lot of fixing. I have to do mixing.
Yeah.
And so I said, send me your worst session, the most broken one.
Yep.
Send me what doesn't work and what has issues. So she sent me this one, and this is the rough mix, and I'll play a few bars of the rough mix. Here we go.
La force et le talent. Sans peur. J'avoue, j'en pleure. Soir-là, sans phare et sans lumière, portant les mots du bout des doigts, impressionnante couleur.
So, I mean, you get that in your inbox. You're like, yeah, sure, I'll mix this, no problem. If that's the worst session, I'm good.
Yeah.
So, and then it's kind of like a modern take on this song. In particular, is a modern take on Gainsbourg, for those of you who are familiar with Serge Gainsbourg, but with kind of Gainsbourg from the Aux Armes, etc. era when he went and recorded with the Bob Marley band in Jamaica. And it's a beautiful record. And he actually, on that record, he took the French national anthem and made a reggae cover out of it, which pissed the hell out of everyone.
I bet.
Is awesome. So they're drawing inspiration from that, but it's really modern, and then he has this really vibey cello, and I was like, this is great. And then at the end, it goes.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. This percussion right here, I love this percussion.
Je n'ai pas de problème avec le monde. Non, je n'ai pas de problème.
This is that big metallic kind of castagnettes that are very North African in spirit. They're like these big things, and it's a mad skills. People who play that stuff is amazing. So I heard that, I was like, okay, I know exactly what I want to do.
Yeah,
literally, like I heard the demos, like I know exactly what I want to do. So I did that. So I played with it for a while on April 15th, and that wasn't very good. I mean, I can play it for you. I was just like toying around. Plus, I was figuring out, my gain stage in Luna, which I'm going to show you a couple things. So let me embarrass myself in front of you right here. Very different vibe, because when I heard the drums, I was like, hey, I think I want to be more modern, and I want the drums to be fatter and everything. And then I was looking for a vocal place that reminded me of those records, but felt modern. And then so I did that. So the day after, I think the day after is the 16th, is the first day I sent them the first mix. The first mix was for me.
Yeah.
And for me to figure out my bearings and try and get comfortable in Luna in this environment. And then the second mix, I think, is the first one I sent them. So I was proud as hell. I was like, yeah, this is dope, man. Yeah. This is exactly it. So
it's the vocal super forward, and like it's got some space around it, but you've got this incredible like.
It's very important that every word should be heard, because this is very much about the text, the lyric.
Yeah. In
a way that not a lot of US music is, or even Latin music I worked on. It's just different. There's this poetry thing about this kind of vibe, where the singer's got to be in your face.
Yeah.
So I was super proud of myself. I was like, this is great. They're gonna love it. This is awesome. So I got feedback from them, and they really didn't like it. So so that was great.
They were like, they liked it. Like, what did they like about it, and what didn't they like about it? So basically,
my whole vision of trying to modernize the drums was bullshit. And that's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
Their demo, which I'll play again, had the hint of what they wanted. It's just an ego trip. Or I was just having fun. Let's call it that.
There we go.
So check out the bass. That's what they wanted. It's a bass-driven thing, not a bass drum-driven thing. And for me, I thought it was a shame, because I think that that pocket was really cool. Like I don't hear that, you don't hear that on a Drake record,
No.
And so I was like, this is nice. This is like fresh, and with that cello, or it's called djembe, on the left there.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is really fresh. So, but I'd like to like make it hit. Harder.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what they wanted. Well, let me mitigate that. I went too far. So then for the next couple of mixes, then I chased going back
to the
place
demo
where that made me happy
mm-hmm.
and make them happy too. And so I'm going to open Luna after that and show you the session.
Nice.
So let's make sure that it's the right session and that I can hear it.
So speaking of switching, what's there's a lot of commonalities between some of the workflows and even like keyboard shortcuts between Pro Tools and Luna. Has there been anything that's like totally surprised you that Luna does that other DAWs don't do?
Well, yeah, I think the whole point of it, the reason why I'm even here is Luna has a tone to it if you use the extensions.
Mm-hmm.
So, and people are confused about that. Let's just simplify things. All right, check this out. So in Luna, you have two areas that most other DAWs don't have or haven't not implemented this way yet. I'm sure somebody is paying attention to that and working on it right now. There's on the input section here, you have the Neve summing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically gives you, it models how an 80 series console functions, which could be highly desirable.
Mm-hmm.
There's times when it's not desirable. I'm going to show you. And then there's this. You could insert a tape plugin on the tracks of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually colors the mix in ways that it's a different spirit than just inserting tape plugins. I'm using the Studio 800. I could insert the Studio 800 on the first insert in Pro Tools. I could do that. Mm-hmm. And I could maybe try and find a Neve plugin that has a good Neve plugin and put that on my buses. But the whole architecture of this thing is built around that.
Yeah.
And that changes things in the spirit. Let me make sure that I can actually hear stuff. Yes. Okay. So let me show you my session organization a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How can I do that most efficiently? Like this.
Yep.
This is good. By the way, I'm very proud to say that I insisted for Control Option Command up arrow.
Yep.
Concentrates your whole session. So if you're super like tall like this,
mm-hmm.
and you just want to have an overview.
1, 2, 3, and up or down. Yep.
I love it. And Lev and Connor were very kind and said, really? I said, yeah. Please.
Yep.
So that works great. And then, these commands work great. A lot of DAWs don't really have key commands, at least last time I checked. They link the size of the waveform
mm-hmm.
with the size of the track. Here you can have, just like in Pro Tools, you can have a big track with regular waveform.
Yep.
Or you can have stuff very concentrated, but you can make the waveforms huge. That way you know where stuff is.
Yeah. Do you mind telling people what that shortcut is for the waveform?
It's in my body. Hold on, let me find it out. It's a Option Command bracket, left and right bracket.
Yep. So those are almost the same as the zoom in and zoom out.
It's exactly the same as Pro Tools.
Yep.
It's not. Yeah, exactly.
It's one key off. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. It's a command left and right bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of the time, if I'm in the timeline view, unless I'm editing, I am actually in this view because I can tell when the music is like this.
Exactly.
And that's nice. That's a taken over from Pro Tools. Mm-hmm. So let's listen to a couple bars of this last mix from the top because it's so pretty, and also to make sure that everything works.
La force et le talent. Sans peur. J'avoue, j'en pleure. d'étonnantes couleurs au son de cette voix. Et puis, cette harmonie des cœurs montrant mon monde abasourdi et tendu, la force et le talent sans peur. J'en pleure, j'avoue, j'en ris. Grande vertu du paradoxe où le jour ne doit son salut qu'à l'obscur.
etc. And then the part with the
Cool percussion.
thing there.
Yeah.
Mes préoccupations, mes questionnements. Non, je n'ai pas de problème avec le monde. Non, je n'ai pas de problème avec le monde. Non, je n'ai pas de problème avec le monde. J'avoue, j'en pleure. J'avoue, j'en ris.
Voila. So let me show you stuff. And so we're at a point right now where this is there's a couple of revisions. We have some issues with some noise on the vocals. I'm going to show you that. But they're both the producer and Nesrina are very happy with the mix. It's just like little changes. I'm probably going to try and sneak in a little more bass drum. Maybe.
It's a lot of snare drum kind of going on there at the end, right? Like, kind of.
I know, but you know what? Exactly. But the pocket is driven by those castagnettes, and so we are so conditioned to hear big bottom, like boom things.
Yeah. And
I'm mixing a Lolo Zouai record at the same time, where it's 98% bass drum, 2% vocals.
Yep.
So we have to move our heads around. It's fun. That's why this is fun. Because one day one thing, one day another. Never get bored. So let me show you a little bit the system that I have put in place. So I'll leave the inputs so you can see what tracks have Neve and what tracks have tape and not. And also, by the way, this is the internet, so my screen resolution is abysmally small.
Yep, a little
Usually
compressed.
I can see the whole session on the screen, and today I cannot.
It's like you've got it in the very tall mode for especially like the inputs, which is it's cool. It's such a Luna gives you the ability. So if you want to say not see all those record effects, you can make those small and kind of hide the ones that are not being used. So it is customizable. But yeah, if you've got a bigger screen, you can fit a lot more on there.
Yeah. So and I'm in small on the tape, but you have all these controls here. So. Left to right, let me go to a spot where there's music. There you go. So I have the first bass drum. Still not used to that.
Selection grouping. That's the one thing that Pro Tools, as a Pro Tools person, it's gonna take the longest.
Yeah. So this is an edit. Remember that thing with a million edits?
Yep.
This is it, right? So that came in straight as is from Pro Tools, and with whatever volume rights Uma had. So I just kept everything as is.
Yep.
And so we have the bass drum, we have first bass drum, and then there's this, which is a Coles overhead on the bass drum. We have this. Which is doing very little right now. We have this. That's a cut up part of the snare, and that's it's also copy pasted everywhere. And then there's some more organic. The other stuff are this bass drum is the end of the show, and then because the drums literally have two completely different sounds.
Yeah.
There's the first part here and the second part here. That was fun. Then the calls. That's the second part, calls. And then the room which I resurrected, if you remember, it was muted on Pro Tools, but I'm using it. And then this is whole drums. I have a little bit of the parallel processing here. I have a DBX 160, and I'm sending all that stuff to it. This one's muted, so I'm not using it. This one's muted too. So only the first part on the first part of the song, I'm sending the bass drum, the snare drum, and those little thingies to try and create a little more density.
Yeah.
Then we have the bass, and this is what happened with the bass. I started with the bass clean, literally no amp.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to be super fat, but I didn't want it to be in the way of my really big bass drum.
Yep.
And then when they said, that's not the vision, and I was like, okay. So I went back to listen to the demo, and I was like, oh, right, I get it. And that's akin also to those records, like 70s records. And that record was not mixed in a modern way, the Gainsbourg record.
Yeah.
But you could feel what they were trying to do. And so what I did is I went back to Pro Tools. I opened the UAD plugin that he had used, because he had used the UAD plugin. He had used this one. I copied the preset, and I saved the preset in Pro Tools. And then when I came here, I hit preset. Come on, girl. Then I have L bass amp right here. So I was able to carry the preset over from Pro Tools using the built-in plugin.
I was gonna say, can you show people where to click? Because we did we talked about this in one of our office hours a couple of weeks ago, but we haven't touched on it since. Yep, at the bottom of every UAD plugin, you'll find that little folder icon. And if you save or loading presets through there, it's all referencing from the same spot. So like Fab mentioned, in Pro Tools, you can pull up a plugin, a UAD plugin, hit save preset there, and then it'll show up either in the main.
Show up right here.
Yep, exactly.
It's awesome. And so that allowed me to actually keep Uma's vision and bring it into Luna, even though he did the stuff in Pro Tools.
Nice.
And you can see here, by the way, that's the number one question. Let me answer the question in uncertain terms. Yes, you can use third-party plugins in Luna. You really can.
I know it's been nice. I've noticed that the our live stream chats of first 2 weeks it was nonstop. Can I use AU? It's slowed down. I think we've almost got everybody on board with. But say it one more time, just in case I didn't hear you, Fab.
Yes, you can use third-party plugins in Luna.
Yeah.
Let me show you. This is Sugar. The little black bar here is us. That's a plugin that process audio. One of my babies with Guillaume Chalayak, my partner in this venture, and we need to fix this. But it sounds bananas. There's a little visual
GUI bug
on our
there,
side. It's not Luna. It's us, honey. And then these are third-party plugins. They're on the bass. They work great. It sounds bananas. So let's use bass. So the bass, the way it came, it's fat.
The growl on that is
And then so I add the bass amp right here. And I had to tame the bottom a little bit because to my taste and for overall arc of the record, from song to song reasons, I went and listened to the other demos. It's like it was too fat to function in this environment. And keeping the spirit of it, but lightening it up and fitting it in a more modern sounding environment allowed me to please them and also make the record fit in now.
Yeah.
As opposed to this. And also the number one feedback I got from Nesrin was like, oh, it's so clear. And like the reason for that is because the bass is no longer freaking everything out.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I have Pro Q3.
There's that bottom taming. Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. And this thing here is just because it's probably in the way of something else. And then I got Sugar, which I'm using mostly for the saturation and a little bit of shine. Okay. And then towards the end I had issues, I think, and so I put this on. On its own, it doesn't matter. It's probably a placement compared to something else.
Yeah.
So that's the bass, and there's another bass at the end, and the sound is slightly different.
Oh, so so you're not using those two in parallel. You're using it again, just like in the drums, where you have a and a B channel.
Exactly, and they did not match sound-wise, and they were not recorded at the same level.
Yeah.
So and here at the end, you have this like really cool. It's really awesome, and then it goes into this. those two parts didn't match, so I had to
Mhm.
try and give it a vibe. And here in this environment, this is really cool. Check it out. Remove the solo.
Mais pas questionnement. Non, je n'ai pas de problème avec le monde. Non, je n'ai pas de problème avec le monde. Non, je n'ai pas de problème avec le monde. J'avoue, j'en pleure.
When the track drops, it really goes.
Yeah.
And if you notice, I have a lot of reverb.
Lots of main space.
Yeah. So main space is right here. I only have 2 reverbs on this whole mix. Main space,
Yep.
which is him.
Plate
We
B
know
on
him.
like 2.5 ish.
It's pretty much it's pretty much it for main space. That's all I use. And then I'm also using the Ocean Way to give the whole mix, for lack of a better word, a butt. Because everything was recorded pretty close, and so I was lacking some distance.
Yep.
And so this is actually used as a reverb, but to create a space. I used to use something called Office, and which was like an Oxford reverb preset, and I still use that quite a bit. But this is extremely realistic.
Yeah.
And so
and very tweakable too, from the sense of like if you want to take a sound, throw it into an incredible sounding live room, you get that, but then you also by having those different microphone options, you can really be a connoisseur of your distance and the tone that it creates.
You can tweak it. I'm not that nerdy about it. I should be probably, but I like using it this way because if you listen to, say, the chorus, I don't know if it's going to show. I'm curious to know. Let's do this. Check it out. So if I go on the chorus area.
Sans peur, j'en pleure, j'avoue.
The background vocals, you see that they'll just come straight in your face. Check it out. With, and then I'm going to mute it right here. Okay. So I'm going to start with.
Sans peur, j'en pleure, j'avoue, j'en ris. Grande verte. Sans peur, j'en pleure, j'avoue, j'en ris. Sans peur, j'en pleure, j'avoue.
Because actually the reason why I did that is because Uma wrote back and said, those background vocals on those Bob Marley records where it sounds like the girls are in a different room. I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, let's do that. Cool. So that's what I did.
And the way they used to do that was actually by putting the background singers in a different room.
Well, they were in the room, but they were far away, and there was a lot of bleed, and their vocals would bleed into the lead microphone, and that would create a distance. So I faked it that way. Nice. But still, and trying to create a vibe. My natural tendency would have been to make them super dry and present, because that's what I like. But that was the aesthetic, and also I thought it created a really nice contrast between the bone dry vocal in the middle, and then these kind of like different vibe.
Totally separates them, message wise too, right? I assume that
absolutely.
I don't understand what the lyrics are saying in that point, but it really gives you that contrast between I'm here in your face and hey, we're over here, kind of floating around.
Yeah, the lyrics are very. Yeah, it's cool. They're cool. It's cool. Maybe Nesrine can translate them for us. I'll ask if she could do that.
That'd be cool.
So, it's great. It's very, very pretty and very unique point of view. So I'm just going to keep going. We're not going to geek out on, I use plus 2 dBs at 60 hertz on the bass drum. That's not really the vibe.
But there have been questions in the comments though asking why all your faders are yellow colored.
I can explain that. How about I explain that now? Sure. The reason why all those faders are yellow colored is because so I used AAF, right? And so that means that all the volume moves came over from Pro Tools, right? And I don't know what Uma has done. Maybe a lot of it is actually intentional. Maybe he's compensating for some of his production issues. Like, for example, sometimes you're in the heat of the moment, you're recording a guitar, then you switch the sound, and then you do another part, and then you're like, oh, darn, we forgot to do the chorus. we forgot to do the outro with the other sound. So you get back to the other sound, but you don't get back exactly the same level.
Yep.
That would never happen to me, but
Never,
I know
no.
it's happened to somebody else. And so you don't get back to exactly the same level. And as a good producer, you want to spare your, the next person down the line, in this case me, from having to, be blown out of the water with the extra loud guitar that comes in, or maybe that bass that I showed you.
Mm-hmm.
They probably had that problem with that bass here.
Yeah.
So they were volume moves. So when you have a volume move that brings over from AAF, every time you move the fader snaps back in place.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes you want to punch your computer.
Yep.
And computers don't work as well once they've been punched.
So rumors.
So, yeah, I can speak from experience. So they also don't work very well when you throw them out the window. Just so you know. I tried for you, and
pro tip: don't throw your computer out the window.
Yeah. Sometimes they work just about the same.
Yeah, exactly.
But they never work better.
Uh-huh.
So this is called trim mode.
Nice.
And trim mode is imported from classic console automation. And it's basically, you can think of it as an offset, right? So if you have a move that does, this is your move. With trim, you could take that whole move and go.
Move it all up or down.
Exactly. It's just an offset, plus minus 1 dB, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
So for me, it's great because I was able to keep the original moves and just put everybody in trim and then behave as there was no moves, still get the benefits from the move, and still be able to make my own moves on top of that.
Yeah.
So that's nice. It's a good balancing tool, if you will.
Nice.
So that means that everything that's yellow, I've touched the level of. And everything that's not, I haven't. So apparently the percussion room was happy where it was.
Nice.
And that's it. Everything else I rebalanced to my personal desires. So let's geek out for a second because this is way too musical. So we have the guitars, and they came with their own reverb. All the guitars had their own effects. The vocals had their own effects. The background vocals have their own reverb. Everything had their own reverb. And there was no dry. Nothing was dry,
right? So I remember seeing in the Pro Tools session they had like the spring reverb loaded up on stuff, and
well, the spring reverb loaded up that was extra reverb. But like for example, this guitar. If you go to electric guitar left, this guy right here. I don't have a guitar. The space is automated for one throw later. That's it.
Yeah.
The right guitar, same thing. That guitar came with that reverb came with.
It's a nice amp. It's still a very springy sound, but you can tell it's kind of baked in and it's gone through something.
I didn't have a choice. The only thing I did is I did they have this thing called freeze. It's pretty cool. So on that I added the Galaxy. So without the Galaxy, it's like this. And then with just to meld, sorry, I'm looking in the wrong place here, just to meld it more into the fabric of the track. And there's just a couple places where I added some of that energy to blend with the rest of the track, like the djembe. So on the djembe, I went with, let me show you how it came. This is kind of interesting. So when I got it, it was like this. So it had a reverb on it, but not a lot. So the first thing I did is, and this was Nesrin's suggestion. She said, treat it like a guitar or like a bass. So don't be precious about it. So I was like, okay, fine. So I put the Fender on it, and then
the important switch that you flipped on there, by the way, was you went from normal to line mode.
To line,
A lot of times, if you put that on, and you're instantly like, "Ooh, that's way too hot, way too much." Don't back away. Just immediately hit that switch and go into line mode. It gives you a lot more headroom on the knob.
The line mode on this allows you to use it on everything. Pretty much vocals, anything. I use it on everything. It's a fantastic thing. So there's a slight high pass.
Up into the 200s. Yep.
Yeah, and that on its own obviously is too much, but in the context of the track, it's just right. And then a little bit of grit with. Like a kind of like a Chuck guitar thing.
Yep, and it brings it forward as well.
And then my sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm using the saturation here. I love that saturation.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of this. By the way, there's a key command called Shift W that gets rid of all the plugin UIs.
It's so helpful.
It's nice.
It's so helpful. Yeah.
Love it. So this is in the context. To me, this cello part, Jamboree cello part, is the soul of the song.
Yeah.
Throughout, all the way to the end. There's a little place where it does a solo. Oh, by the way, there's another key command you need to know.
Yep.
Option minus. So in Pro Tools, you can command minus to switch between waveform view and automation view. In Luna, it's different. It's option minus. That's because it does it for everything.
Yeah.
Kind of like Ableton, where you're either looking at your clips or you're looking at your automation, and you can do it globally. It took me a second to get used to that. I hated at first, and now I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yep. It's a really pretty thing. If I get permission, I may push that up a little. We'll see.
But it's kind of like it's like that and the bass, like that and the bass are the two kind of holding harmony and the kind of the movement of the song, right?
Check this arrangement out, man. This is really beautiful. Looks like I lost my sample. Don't tell anyone, but I put a sample on the bass drum.
Oh my gosh!
I know. It's just kids these days. So I love this. Just feels so like raw and beautiful. So there's that, and then there's the looper. I told you about the looper.
Yeah.
The looper is here. Clearly also a cello turned into texture. And that I put a 250 on because it begged for me to put a 250 on.
And you just did it right on the track rather than as a sound.
Yeah, because I wanted it to be its own thing and its own effect. And that's the whole thing. So the way I structured and then the vocals and the vocal thing, maybe we could talk about it next week if there's need. But I'll just do a quick thing. So this is the denoiser I had to use because there was a little bit of a high pitch thing you may have heard on the demo.
Yep, I heard that.
It took me. I had to relearn. Yeah, I had to relearn RX. Very powerful. So I actually I'm denoising the vocal, and I had to have them because Uma had really cleaned up everything. So it was like neat, but I didn't have any of the noise in the
you didn't wild. So it was all edited so tightly that you couldn't find sample noise.
So I actually asked him to send me the tracks again, and so if you look in the Luna folder, it's a new files from Uma, and then there's a lead vocal modification, and that's basically with enough pre-roll that I can grab that noise and then remove it so it doesn't ruin the vibe.
Nice.
So there's that. There's Pro DS on the lead vocal.
Well, I mean, that's always the thing, right? When you're doing like a very dry, super in-your-face vocal, especially if it's recorded bright like this one, de-essing is kind of the most essential move you can make.
number one, and it's always better to do it, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and from my personal mileage. I do that first.
Yeah.
Because de-essing a vocal after it's been compressed, it's already been compressed before it got to me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just not. It doesn't work.
It just exaggerates the effect.
Yeah, I'm not good enough to make it work. Let's just put it that way. A slight high pass with a dynamic cut, because she's pretty close to the mic and she leans in.
Mm-hmm.
So I compensated for that by making it this frequency dynamic.
Nice.
And then this, which is like the vibe-a-thon for vocals, is really, really good.
Yeah.
And then I did this after.
Nice.
So it's a 2 compressor vibe.
Yep.
This is mostly for tone. Let's be real.
Yeah.
This is mostly for tone. And then this is the compression.
And you've got the 1176 working pretty fast, both on the attack and release. So it's catching any like peaky things that the LA2A
exactly.
would totally miss.
Exactly. And then a second de-esser
Mm-hmm.
made by Eosis. It's a very good de-esser.
Yeah.
And then My Baby.
There it is.
And that's the extra saturation
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of shine in the high end.
Nice.
And that thing is the fastest shortcut to that vocal sound. So that's the vocal chain, and then it's more or less that on the other vocals. Copy pasted. You can copy paste. By the way, in Luna, you cannot yet option drag the sands to copy them, but you can click copy.
Yep.
And then you can click on what you want to copy, and then you can copy in many places.
Yeah.
So I personally wish they were both, but I'm going to beg for it, and we'll see what happens.
How do people beg for new features in Luna, Fab? I know you have your method, but what's the public method of
feedback on the upper right?
Hey, that's the one. Yep.
Right here, feedback on the upper right. I call Lev and complain, and Connor. And that's one of my
lucky for them. I was like, lucky for them, we haven't published their phone numbers on the on the office hours.
I don't have many luxuries in my life, but the ability to call those guys is pretty badass.
Yeah, it is.
So and they care, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then so here's something that might be of value. And I know we're over time. Should we stop, or what do we do?
Let's wrap this up. I think I think I know what you're about to get to. So yeah, it'd be nice to.
So there's 2 things that I think are important. Whenever you get to a new mix, let's personalize this. Whenever I get to a new mixing environment, my number one, and be it a new DAW or on a console or on whatever, they all feel different. Like in your body, when you move a fader, it doesn't feel the same. They don't react the same.
Yeah.
The gain stage feels different. And so I had none of my automatic moves, which is great, because I was able to really stay focused and phone nothing in. So it's important that you should teach yourself the gain stage of whatever platform you work in. Most people just like throw shit up and put a limit on a mix bus and everything sounds this big, and that's not the way, especially with something like this, because you have a bunch of circuits here that really are begging for you to treat them well. And so a couple tricks that are really cool. First, what I would do is I have here a sum master. A sum master is just a bus. Okay, so instead of sending everything to the main, like you would be enticed to do, what I did is I inserted a sum master bus, and that sum master bus is padded 6 dBs, which allows all my faders to hover around 0. If this sum master were up, based on the fact that I got the session with a lot of automation and that the gain stage, I didn't generate that gain stage. I inherited that gain stage from the producer session, right?
Yeah.
So I'm able to keep my faders in the same zip code around zip code 0, and I'm padding all the heat, all the energy that's coming from all those added gains by lowering this fader here 6 dB. So you notice that in the output thing here, come on, down here, you see that every track does not go to sub master, doesn't go to main, they go to sub master, and then the sub master goes to main. That allows me to gain stage my session here, just like if you had a master fader in Pro Tools. But Here, what's important to know is that if you're going to use this technique in Luna, do not insert the Neve summing, because the Neve summing has its own modeling and gain staging built in. And there's a trick on there that's really cool that I'm going to show you next. But what I recommend you do, if you want to familiarize yourself with the gain stage of Luna, insert that sum master there.
Yeah.
And that allows you to fine tune, kind of like a master fader on your console. And that allows you to fine tune your stuff and to use the floating point math of this mixer with no compromise. And also it allows you to, if your levels creep up, just bring them down very easily without having to kill the first plugin on your mix bus.
So that's why I've done it on it, and I haven't pulled off the trick that you're doing here yet. But yeah, this is I basically have always been using my first insert on that main fader to be the compensator for any sort of gain stage.
But for example, this plugin, which is also my baby, which I also helped design. I love this thing. Doesn't have an input gain.
Yeah. Just output gain. Yeah.
And so you can't do it. So this is a universal way also to wrap your head around the fact that you have a sum master.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice. And also it's nice because, well, let me finish. Let me show you quickly the mix bus. By the way, if you shift click on the plugin that was up before goes away.
Yeah.
And if you don't shift click, they stack up. It's pretty nice.
It's a little bit opposite of what some of us Pro Tools users are used to. Because in Pro Tools, you're used to having to press shift in order to have more than one.
Yeah, I don't know why this has become second nature in like 5 minutes, whereas some of the other stuff I'm still screaming at the screen because somebody moved my cheese. So this is the MDW. So I'm using the backs as a high pass and a little bit of that 7K. I really love that 7K. It's pretty. And then I'm using this basically to try and spruce the bottom of that bass drum. That's not really a bass drum. But to do it in a holistic kind of like global way with the bass.
Yep.
And it came out pretty good. Then I have a little bit of that compression. It's really not that much.
Cœur, mon tremble abasourdi.
A dB and a half.
Yeah.
And then Elevate, which is a really nice limiter. Andrew Shep's turned me on to this, so I'm kind of using it right now just to see how it feels.
This is the first time I've ever seen this one.
I dig it. It's made by the good people at Eventide, but it's a different brand. I don't know why they did that. It's really elegant. It works good. This is my current experiment, if you will.
Nice.
And then I have Decibel that tells me, this is my next baby that's going to come out. Guillaume and myself's baby is going to come out in a few weeks.
Nice.
That's what Guillaume says. And it's a meter that you can park on your mix bus, and then you have an iPad.
That's
wireless,
constantly.
And it's constantly, so you never have to look at your mix bus. So that's pretty much, that was my idea. I'm tired of having to go click on the mix bus to see what my level is. I just have it sitting on my desk right now. So that's nice. And then there's another little thing here, and I'll show you next week because that's still a secret. Another thing we're working on. So that's pretty much my session. And you'll notice that most things go to the sum master, except a couple. The percussions go to a percussion submix that itself goes to the sub master. And then the drums go to a drum submix that itself goes to the sub master. But otherwise, it's a very simple session.
Yeah.
And the one thing that's important, that you should check it out, and it's confusing. So I'm going to try and unconfuse it. First, people ask me, a lot, should I get the Neve because, the Neve is paid for? I said, yeah, if you're going to work in Luna, you should get the Neve. It really works. It sounds great. And it's very usable. So there's two buttons, and the way it's done is a little counterintuitive. So let me demystify this for you. This trim, think of it as an input trim. So what I'm doing here, you could do it here. Like if I did this, it'd be the same. By the way, fader moves are undoable in Luna.
Thank God.
Very nice. So that trim is basically like a pad, right? And you can gain 6 dBs, which is funny because I have 6 dBs here. I just like the visual of knowing that I have the sum master. And also I like to, there's other more esoteric things that I don't think is the subject here, but trust me, this works. And then this is very interesting. So when you hit a console very hard, it sounds different, right? And the harder you hit it, the more it saturates. So you are actually able to change how hard you hit the console, but it doesn't change the gain. This is the part that's complicated. When you hit a Neve really hard, it gets louder and louder and louder, and you get a saturation with it, right? So what basically imagine is like if somebody moved the input fader really hard and then lowered the output fader to compensate, so that you can always hear what's going on. Does that make sense? So check it out. If I have here my full mix, I'm going to just replace.
So this really allows you to like control the saturation and
exactly.
and get exactly how much you want without changing your gain stage around.
But not kill your gain stage. So check it out. So I mean, I haven't done this, but I'm sure you're going to hear something.
Oh yeah.
Ce soir-là, sans phare et sans lumière, portant les mots du bout des doigts, impressionnante couleur.
Check out the bottom. Let me go to the chorus.
Get to a bass part. It's gonna blow that up nicely.
Check it out. That's something that you're not supposed to do. Hit a Neve so hard, but
that's some Jack White stuff, right?
Here in the bass drum, and check out the presence and the transients on the bass drum and the bass, and how they glue together more. So, I listen to this and I'm like, this is really desirable. Like I really dig this. Removes a little bit of that space around the instruments that I like and that I'd like to keep. I would like this record to be cinematic. So this may change, but for now, I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah. Well, you can hear it too. It adds a little bit of hair, but yeah, sometimes when you, especially if you crank a little too much of that, that narrowing effect can happen, which is on some mixes that's what you want, but
that's what would happen on a console, which is part of the desire of the console. But here, I have some of the saturation because without it at all, it sounds like this. It's nice. So one of the reasons why having the submaster here is cool is because the trim and the VU meters are not tied. So if I were to leave this at +6 and lower the trim to 6, look at the meter.
And I think I found out.
Completely crushed. And for me, that's hard on my soul.
So the issue, the reason why you're seeing that, Fab, is the trim on the new summing is actually post headroom. So that'll make sense of like that trim won't affect the VU meter. The VU meter is measuring your input into the console emulation. So that's why, setting up the way you have here with having the submaster fader, you're able to goose your, change your gain stage into the summing to hit exactly in the sweet spot, and then that kind of gives you that headroom control to be fully variable, and you're constantly operating in the sweet spot of the new summing.
Exactly. I wasn't aware of that, but now that makes sense. It felt wrong, so I just didn't do it. But as you can see, like on the percussion sub mix, I'm pushing the color more.
Yeah, exactly.
And on the drums, I tried it here, and I'm pushing it a little bit, but I'm in low impedance, and that's really awesome. So
which pushes the bottom.
So if I go to the loud one. That's high impedance. We have the bottom now with the low impedance. With the drums without the need. It's cute, but this has more hair on it.
It kind of almost adds so much in that lower octave when you go into the low impedance mode.
It does that saturation thing. It's really good, and it doesn't ruin the gain stage, so you can really kind of play with the color
Mm-hmm.
and really choose it in the spirit of your existing mix, and you can push things forward and back. I dig it.
Yeah.
So that's the setup of the session, and
Nice.
basically, yeah, I kept it super simple.
Mm-hmm.
So now I sent this out, and we are almost there on this mix. This is our first kind of like the guinea pig,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to inform the color of the rest of the record. And then, so I got two more sessions. One of them is called Fantasy, so it must be in English, and one of them is called Mumkin, and that's I think it's in Arabic. So between now and next week, I'm not gonna try. I'm gonna push L as far as Nesrine wants me to, but I think I'm gonna spend my energy on mixing these other two songs,
Nice.
so that she has a vision of three songs. And then I'm probably going to come back and revisit this, and maybe I'll try and sneak in a little more bass drum. And you never know, it might work out.
Yep.
And maybe over the color of the record is going to evolve, and I'm maybe going to use a little more saturation on the mix bus to see if we can get a little more, like a little more blended. Right now, I'm in love with the whole, like, you can touch everything.
Yeah.
But depending on what the other songs do, and I really want the record to have an arc, maybe I'll come back and push this a little bit. And so that's our first Tales from the Switch. Next week, what I'm going to show you is how I'm going to basically use this setup into a different song.
Nice.
So Pro Tools was a little finicky today, but I will try and do a live export of AAF and import into the session next week. That's what I'd like to do.
Yep.
And then I'll show you what I've done on the next mix, and I'll share Nesrine's feedback on this mix and on whatever mixes I've done this week.
Awesome.
And then every week you'll have a chronicle of how the mix is going. I thought this would be interesting for you guys to to see what's going on, because we have 10 songs to go. I'm probably going to mix 4 this week because I also have Lolo Zuai track to finish, and I have 3 Jack Mac tracks to finish, and something else I'm forgetting right now. Please forgive me if you're the artist and I'm forgetting your name right now. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and then there's a couple live streams too.
I was like, yeah, you guys are over on Pure Mix. You guys are streaming every single day.
Every day,
just like we're doing the same, but you guys get the earlier day slot in the day.
Yeah.
Because the variety of guests that you guys are getting on the Pure Mix channel is awesome.
I am so lucky and grateful to have this community of wonderful people. Yesterday, Andrew interviewed Ken Scott, who's one of my inspirations. It's beautiful. Today we had Josh Thomas from Rupert Neve Design, who's a good friend, and Vance and Reed. I'm sure gave him the time of day because that's what they do. Tomorrow we have Daryl Thorpe. Then we have Brian Lucy.
Nice.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so and then on Friday, it's fun. On Friday, 6:30 GMT. GMT is a weird thing, but it works. It's 2:30 for East Coasters, 11:30 for West Coasters, and then I don't know what time for everybody else. We're gonna have a plugin geek out. So I've invited everybody and their mother to come in and tell us their favorite plugin. And
that'd be fun.
There's some pretty serious people coming on. It's pretty fun.
Oh, that's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, but I will see you right here.
Back here.
In exactly 7 days with the next installment. Let's see where we at. Will I have mixed 3 songs? Will I only have 1 song? Will I have 2 songs? Is this mix going to be it? How much is it going to change? I don't know.
Yeah,
we're about to find out.
Stay tuned for the next installment of Tales from the Switch with Fab. Nice.
We should have a thing where like Tales from the Switch or something like. Yeah.
Maybe
that too.
I was gonna spend some of your mixing time on making the intro. Little
Tales
stinger.
From the Switch.
There we go. We'll just sample that and use that.
All right, and then if you have some questions, it's come back next week.
Yep.
ask your questions, and I'll try and take time. See, this is the first installment. It's a little longer than it should be. Sorry, but there's a lot to cover,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have try and have a Q&A section next week,
Yeah.
so that if you have questions on the process, the music, if you want to geek out on 2 dBs at 60 hertz on the bass drum, we can do that too. But really, the process here, what I thought was interesting is to process, to document the process of learning this new platform and
Yeah.
learning its strengths. And also, it's a 1.0. It's not even a 1.0 technically.
Mm-hmm. It's now 1.0.2. So
1.0.2. It's amazing what it does, but a 1.0, I don't know if you remember, name it,
Mm-hmm.
Ableton 1.0, or Reason 1.0.
Yeah.
It didn't do a tenth of what this does. So there's, of course, going to be some things that are not there yet. But we can find ways around that to take advantage of the good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and see what the strengths are. And that's what I'd like to show you.
Awesome.
And I'd like to thank Universal Audio for saying, do what you got to do. I said, I'm just going to, it's real. Like, I'm going to show everything as is. And they are transparent about this. And I think that's pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and being honest and transparent along with us and showing people what this process looks like. So yeah, it's really fascinating to see how quickly you've gotten into working and making Luna do what you want it to do, which is kind of the important part.
I'm still working on it, but it's pretty. I must say that it's with the pressure of having a client, and it's her record. It's really, she's been working on it for a long time. It's very important to her. There's a record label. The record label is a German label called ACT, ACT. This is for real, So there's entertainment here and education here, but the reality is I have to deliver a record.
Yep.
And so I'm very comfortable with how it sounds, and I'm very comfortable with the workflow. And whatever snags I hit, I will share with you, and I will share workarounds. And that way we can all, get out of this better than we entered, hopefully.
That's the idea. Well, awesome. Well,
right.
Fab, thanks so much for spending some time and going a little over with us. This was super helpful. And we'll see you back here next week. And for everybody that's watching at home, we'll see you guys back here tomorrow with another Office Hours. You guys have a good night. Bye.